for the PPP. One of the most, I guess you could say, successful programs so far in President Trump's response and Congress's response to the coronavirus shutdown and economic collapse that we've seen play out over the last few weeks here as businesses stay shuttered. There are other aspects of his plan, though, that are raising a lot of eyebrows when we think about the impact to the economy. The latest one that has a few economists confused is President Trump's push to block immigration. Of course, he announced plans on that front earlier this week, today giving the update that it might be a little bit less in terms of the overall impact on the immigration front that he was originally trumpeting. He was talking about an outright ban on immigration, but it seems like now he'll be mostly applying pressure in terms of green cards getting approved. And for more on that, I want to bring on Kristin Myers, who's been looking at this closely here. And Kristin, I mean, it would be blocking the immigration process here in the United States, but not nearly as much so far as what he was originally talking about.
Absolutely. So as you mentioned, it applies to green card holders. And for those that might not know that it's about for people who want to get permanent residence here in the United States. So this pause is going to last for 2 months, 60 days, and it's going to apply for people who want to get that permanent residency, but also people who are applying for their family members, but are not American citizens themselves. So if you are an American citizen and would like to get a green card for your wife or your child or any other immediate family member, you are still going to be able to do that under this directive. Now, as you mentioned, we're a little bit light on details, but there's a lot of exemptions and concessions that are kind of being made here, as you mentioned. So it's not going to be as strict as the president had originally wanted. And the reason for that is twofold. One, there was a lot of business groups that complained and said that they would not have access to foreign labor and needed it. So, farmers, for example, come particularly top of mind when we think about that. And secondly, there was an idea that this might not entirely be legal and that there might be some kind of legal backlash or lawsuits coming to the fore if the president pushed for this executive order to the extent that he wanted. Now, there's been a lot of critics of this executive order, mainly because 6 million immigrants are essential workers here in the United States during this time. And I kind of want to highlight the healthcare sector, which is, of course, incredibly important during this pandemic. So what we have, 16.6% of all healthcare workers are currently, they're immigrants. That's 21.4% that are doctors, roughly 16% are registered nurses, and 23.7% of all nursing, psychiatric, and home health aides are immigrants. So obviously this move could really cause a lot of restrictions in the healthcare space, which is so needed right now in this pandemic. Now, I do want to mention here that last year in 2019, roughly 500,000 people became green card holders. That is a number that is steadily declining throughout the years. So we're not entirely sure yet how many people are going to be impacted by this 60-day pause, but it will probably be tens of thousands of people, Zach. And a lot of politicians are frankly just calling this a distraction. I want to quickly read some comments for you from Joe Biden, who released a statement yesterday saying, quote, Donald Trump is tweeting incendiary rhetoric about immigrants in the hopes that he can distract everyone from the core truth. He's moved too slowly to contain this virus, and we are all paying the price for it. So we'll have to see going forward how this is going to be impacting businesses and employers that really rely on foreign workers to keep their businesses going.
Yeah, I mean, there are a few, as you mentioned, sectors here that depend quite a bit on immigrant labor, as well as just pressures, even from a macro sense, from economists watching this all play out. We had President Obama's former Council of Economic Advisors Chair, Jason Furman, on the show yesterday, and he highlighted some of the issues with this plan, considering the fact that it might dampen the recovery here when we think about the necessary jobs and employees that companies will need to actually start contributing to the economy. Here's what he had to say.
I think this immigration suspension might be the worst idea since defunding the WHO. First of all, it has nothing to do with the spread of the virus. A lot of this is preventing people from getting green cards, preventing people from becoming citizens. In the United States, without immigrants, our workforce would shrink, not grow. That's not going to help us, for example, repay all of the debt we're incurring right now.
It's just important, some important points there that Jason Furman was making to keep in mind through all this. Of course, the whole point that we're trying to address here is that there are a lot of plans here to stem the economic slowdown that we've seen. And obviously, we want to avoid the similar situations that have played out across the globe. When you look at Japan's economy, he raised the point there that immigrants here make sure that our population is not shrinking, something that you don't want, considering the fact you want GDP to continue growing, especially when you're coming out of a slowdown like this.
Hey investors, Zack Guzman here. Are you interested in learning more about the markets and getting the latest financial news? Well, then click right here to subscribe to our Yahoo Finance YouTube channel. Get the latest up-to-the-minute market analysis, big interviews in the world of finance, and information on how to manage your money every day wherever you are.